Welcome to Quiltinator.com. I'm Michelle Johnson. Do you need a way to hang up your quilts? I'm going to show you a couple of methods that I use. And the first is the hanging sleeve, which most people are familiar with. This is done in the same fabric. And what I did, you can see a little tube right in there. Little tube. And what I did is I measured across the back, and then I cut one just a little bit shorter, and this was about 5 inches. And then I folded over about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and then I folded over one more time. So that way it was a nice finished edge. And then I sewed right down, and then when I ironed it in half, and then I put the raw edges up against the raw edges of the quilt. So when it was bound, it's completely finished. And it had, I just hand stitched. And you don't have to do it this way. You can use, instead of, if you're running short on fabric, you can just do the one top and then fold it under and then hand stitch that down. It's really easy. Or if you need to do, if you don't want to do this method, you can always, do several little sections if you're short on fabric. So say you had 4 pieces that went across, if it was a nice large quilt, and that way it would run through and it would be just fine. Also, you don't have to kind of do it this way. You could pin one on. I made a tube, and I did it the exact same way. I just measured, and then I took the raw edges and I opened them, or ironed them open, and then just put that in the center, and then just took some pins and pinned it on. And this was for a quilt show. So, and they had a certain requirement. And if you're putting something into a quilt show, read before you actually sew something down. They're usually happy with you just pinning one on. But originally, this was just hanging up with a key ring. And because this has the stiffener on this one, if you remember, this holds it nice and flat. And they have it by their front door. And so I just sewed it down like a little button, and it's just fine. This one has a ribbon across it, and it also has the stiffener. But this one would probably be better off because it wants to bend over just a little bit. So this would be good for, something that's a little stiffer. This one wants to hang over just, so I'm going to change that up, and I'm going to do this method. And this method is, again, you have your raw edges, and you just take a square, and I would say at least a 3-inch square, because once you fold it diagonally and make a triangle out of it, you're going to lose, enough to cut from the binding. So you just cover that up, pin it up, you put your binding on, and it encases it. And so then all you need to do is have a dowel, and you cut it the length of your quilt, and once it's in, it holds everything across very nicely. And if you have a large quilt and you still want to do this so it doesn't flop over, you may want to put a couple of small little hanging sleeves in between, and you can run that dowel across there. One of the best ways to recycle and reuse your sewing machine needles is to use it as a hanger. And these are great for your little wall hangings because these leave a little bitty hole in your wall, not a giant nail hole. And so this will hold even a picture from a picture frame, just not anything too heavy. I'm Michelle Johnson. I hope you learned something today and you might want to use one of these methods. This is Quiltinator.com, and I am getting back to quilting.